Welcome to Scrappy to Scalable, the podcast where we explore human-centered AI designed to level the playing field, empowering small and mid-sized businesses to compete with the giants.
Hey, everybody. My name is Felipe Crook. I'm one of the co-founders of Caldor Dynamics. We are a company that helps other companies grow and scale by implementing lead generation systems, marketing systems, and human-centered AI to help them grow and scale. And today, I'm really excited to talk to Russell Disberger. Russell is the founder of Aspen Business Group, a consulting firm that's helped over 4,000 organizations align people and performance. With a background in finance and technology and a former student of Dr. W. Edwards Deming, Russell believes the key to success is people first, with strategy and technology coming second. We'll explore how he's helped companies thrive through change and the tools that he used to measure alignment, and what leaders need to know how to make AI and innovation actually work. Russell, thank you so much for joining the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me today.
I am very excited to chat with you because you have had a very interesting and long career. Can you tell me a little bit of how you created Aspen Business Group and what made you want to form this company?
Well, I have been a consultant since 1991. During the duration and working with other consultants, you see that most business owners or consultants are, if they're small boutiques, they're a lot of times unemployed executives in between jobs. And so the way in which they treat projects or they treat things is they come in, they charge a high price, and then they leave. I've worked so much with small businesses, medium and large, that I feel that consultants needed to have skin in the game. So the idea of Aspen Business Group is more like an aspen grove, not the location in which I was located when forming the company, but think of it as an aspen tree. You see an individual tree, but the root structure underneath that tree constantly shoots up sprouts and creates additional aspen trees. As a matter of fact, I believe the aspen groves in Colorado are some of the oldest and largest living organization or organisms on the planet. They duplicate themselves and continue to, last over time. So even though I started my company with one individual, the idea is that I could probably partner with other consultants around the group and handle companies as big or as small as possible if I can apply that network of roots where we work together to solve a client's problem. But we needed to have skin in the game. And I don't like quote unquote contracts. I like going in and charging an hourly rate because if I'm not making a difference today, don't have me back tomorrow.
That is a pretty rare. Most consultants are on a contract basis.
Yeah, I leave millions of dollars on the table. I know that because you can charge a lot. But I figure if I can come in and make a difference or show some traction right off, we have, a shared passion towards the common goal, which is results. And they need to see that we're getting there. And if they don't see it, why even have me? I have seen so many owners of businesses get so ticked at their consultant that they're obligated with that they try to use them, but they're spending more money trying to accommodate this consultant that they know is not going to work. They need to just fire them or find someone that shares their principles and their beliefs that are going to work to grow their bottom line.
I really appreciate one of your guiding principles about people first, then technology second. Can you talk a little bit more about why you believe that is important?
Well, so I've been a venture capitalist, and when you're trying to grow companies 5 times in 5 years, or at least that was our objective, is that there were people that always came with great ideas, great technology, whatever it is. But it's the people and the alignment of the people that made the difference. Because if they're just trying to sell the technology and not the group, like let's take a look at two guys in a garage, HP. They really didn't know what they were doing or what they were going to build, but they had the right attitude, the right mindset to try to go out and serve. That's the kind of passion, that's the type of element that I like to work with, because then you can pivot, you can grow, you can adjust over time versus just sell a technology which maybe someone bigger, stronger can come up and develop. and take you out in a heartbeat. You've got to be able to be resilient and know kind of how to adapt. The people problem is constant across every industry too. And so wherever I go, whatever I've done, the people issue is something that organizations really need to focus on, because that to me is becomes their glass ceiling, their barrier for real success.
How are you able to measure that in terms of really understanding people? How do you do that quickly? Because I assume that going into any organization takes time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of manpower and hours to do that. How do you consolidate that and make that a more efficient process? Because I assume people are very complex and very different in every single organization. So how do you measure that and make it a little bit easier for you as a consultant?
Well, and then complicated, go around the globe and try to understand culture. So there's a lot of tools that I have used over the years. I was certified in Myers-Briggs, realized that that was more of a concept. Then I got certified in DISC, done work with PI, Culture Index. But what I have found is that I needed a tool that was 96% accurate or better, which there is one, and I like to lead with it with a lot of my clients, and it's called Professional Dynametrics Programs, or PDP for short. It measures three different pictures: who an individual is naturally in a perfect world with no stress. Most individuals, including yourself, we don't live there. We'd like to. But then we have what we call the priority environment, the pressures that we live in. And those are kind of your mindset, how you're internalizing issues from home, from work, from financial, your friends, your faith. All of those things come boiling into pressuring you to change. And when that pressure gets too great, it also impacts your satisfaction and your energy drain. So at the end of the day, you start having energy drain, and it can grow further and more to the point it becomes an impairment. Then the last picture that PDP measures is how you come across, kind of a lens in which other people see you. And so when I try to come in and I meet individuals, I don't have time to like 2 years to get to know everybody within a very large organization. This survey, this PDP, is only 5 to 7 minutes, and I get a very quick, accurate snapshot. And, I've done this now, used this particular tool for over 20, and they just keep getting better. They have, well, it's profoundly cool, is all I have to say. But it allows me to take a look at two individuals. I can look at a department. I can look at a company. I can train companies on how to use it internally so that they own the people problem, which then allows me to shift to the strategic deployment or the scaling or the systems that are needed to lay in the framework to be able to take the organization to the next level. So
I actually,
the
I
be
actually,
the behavioral tool is probably my pixie dust, should I say.
this PDP tool you're saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I actually did mine this weekend and
Did you agree with the results?
I did. Yeah, absolutely. I said that I was what did it say? That I am an influential, a persuasive leader. So, when in leadership roles, I build team effortlessly, seek opportunities, delegate authority, responsibility and details, influence and convince others, have social and verbal skills, present well in public. I was like, yep, that's pretty accurate. There were some things on there that it was talking about, I'm a highly detail oriented, and which I'm not. I'm more of a big picture guy, which is exactly accurate. And that's why my co-founder, Mike, who's also my father, is highly detailed oriented. He's much more introverted, but our styles complement each other really, really well. And the things that I'm lacking, he makes up for, and I do vice versa. So I thought it was very interesting. I looked at his report as well. And it was accurate. I thought there was a couple things like, oh, I would tweak this a little bit. But it's also one of those tools where you're wondering when I was taking the test, and it was super fast. I
It's
was
a
like,
survey, not a test. You can't fail your own. You got
yeah,
your own.
Yeah, you're right. It's a survey. I was wondering, like, well, how should I answer this? Or what's my initial instinct? Or how do I want to be perceived? So I went through a little bit of that, but then I stopped overthinking it and just answered the questions
So,
instinctively.
unlike other tools, and one reason why PDP is more accurate is that it is a word. There are 60 questions, but they're words, and they're measuring the intensity in which you agree with that word. So daring on a scale 1 to 5, 1 being no, not at all, 5 being yes or 100%. So basically, you have 0, 25, 50, 75 to 100. But because it's not a force field where you're trying to choose between two, or you're not just trying to choose a bunch of words, and it's not asking a sentence, it allows an individual to respond to a single stimuli and then measure the intensity.
Mm,
So the outcome of it is over 100,000 different variations. And what we're trying to do is understand, and this is where a lot of people, when they read it, and if they want to debate it, you have to look at three different pictures. Your natural self is how you operate naturally. So if I put a rubber band around my fingers and I'm kind of resting without no stress on the rubber band, that's your basic natural self, how you operate in a perfect world with no stress. But like everybody, we go through the day and we provide that stress, and that tension on the rubber band grows. We can do that. So, and sometimes our jobs require us to do that. But the question is well, I want to know what that natural area is, because if I can create an environment that allows you to go back to that natural self, the probability of higher success, higher output, and greater enjoyment with you goes way, way up. So
mm.
if I can basically use a hammer to do a hammer's job, a screwdriver to do a screwdriver's job, and put people in the right seat of the bus and align it, that's great. But then I also still have to understand the pressures, which we all need a certain amount of stress to make life interesting. The key is not too much and not too extreme. So yeah, I need to understand that those variations, and that report that you took or that you received is 19 pages from a survey that you spent 5 to 7 minutes on. That's not too bad of an output.
Yeah. So when you're implementing these surveys in the companies that you're going into, let's say you get the reports back, how do you use those reports to make adjustments on the teams? Do you move people to different locations, or do you say, hey, this is an environment that is not conducive to be successful, or what's your process?
Well, I mean, that's like asking to paint every room white. You can't or you shouldn't. Every situation's different. Like, let me pick on Colorado, especially in the resorts area. There's a limited pool of employment. And so sometimes people get into this tendency of hiring a pulse. So now the question is, how do you make do with the team that you have? And how do you optimize it? Or better yet, how do you manage the team you have if you don't have that flexibility? Another time, if you're a startup, so I have a construction company in Atlanta that I'm working with, and we're able to, in a sense, identify the ideal behaviors needed for each job in advance. I train everybody what to look for, and then we're hiring the applicants to fit kind of a designed like an organizational architect. We're designing that organization to basically be a fast growth, high impact construction company, which you don't normally think about that in construction. But if you can align it and keep your labor rate down, because a lot of times people will throw labor at problems. But if you can actually do that, profitability goes up and you can do and basically compete against everybody. But how I use it is really unique to each situation. But if I can survey each individual, find out where the pressure's coming from, is it work or non-work? If it is work related, what's causing it? I look for central themes. I look in departments, divisions, and I try to start understanding the culture. And then I take a look at the people and working with them, trying to figure out how's the best or what is the best path moving forward. But before I move a lot of people, I also want to understand the systems within the organization. As Dr. Deming talked about, that 80% of issues within companies are systems. And so I got to understand the systems as a consultant, see if they're functioning. And then I got to understand the people problem and the people. And together you make a really a high performing team and a company.
That has got to be a lot of fun to see when you go into a company and really start to tweak some of their systems and their move around people. It must be really fun to see the results when it actually works.
It is fun, but I'm also going in and telling the owner, the board of directors that the bathwater is dirty, and sometimes there's natural defense. So I use different methods to get them to weigh in, buy in, so that they own the problem. I don't ever want it to be, well, this is what Russell said or what Aspen Business Group said. I want it to be kind of a shared understanding of the situation and a shared path forward, if that makes sense. Yes, it's fun. Every company you can pop the hood, every company most people idolize, trust me, pop that hood and you can see some of the issues that we could be working on to make it a better organization.
How do you get leaders to actually take ownership without offending them? Like, I assume that most people that are creating businesses, it's their baby. How do you get a leader who's a little bit protective or a little bit defensive to let down some of those guards and be willing to change and grow?
Well, we talked about the PDP prior. So if I understand their natural behavior style, I apply a concept called the platinum rule. Do you know what that is?
No, tell me.
Do you know what the golden rule is? What is golden rule?
Do unto others as you would want to do to yourself.
Okay, so let's project. What do you think the platinum rule would be?
Do unto others what they want to be done. Is that right?
Yeah. So the idea is that as a leader, you have to not use your behavior style or your method as kind of the way in which you lead. My
Mm,
job is to compel, to lead, to motivate, to do something, but to get to focus on what they want. So I try to teach individuals kind of what we would call an outward mindset. And to get people to have an outward mindset, we have to have a shared goal, a shared vision, a shared purpose. And so I typically start with something that everyone can agree to. And then we take a look at where do we start from? So now all we're doing is arguing or trying to clarify the path forward, which then goes with that back to measuring systems, understanding variation, and the people required to do it. And when I get them to kind of break things down in a logical sequence like this, the resistance typically goes away. Does that make sense?
totally. I imagine that a lot of, maybe this is a bad assumption, but I'm just going to say this assumption that I have. I assume a lot of business owners are going to be very A-type personalities, very driver personalities. In order to be an entrepreneur, you have to have a lot of self-motivation. You have to have a lot of inspiration, motivation, and self-starting initiative. I imagine that a lot of these type of personalities would have a harder time adapting to that concept where they're thinking more about what the other person.
All right,
Is
so
that a
let's
bad
let's
assumption?
let's just pick you and your company. What is your objective at the end of the day?
To help people.
Right. Okay, so let's get rid of the philosophy and let's get down to the bottom line. What are you trying to do?
We are trying to become a virtual operations company to help people grow and scale.
Okay, you're still on the philosophical. You're trying to make money,
Yeah.
right?
Ultimately,
I mean, so ultimately, no matter what I'm doing or whatever I'm doing, yes, purpose, values, all of that is critical, especially if you're trying to get people to buy in. But every organization, even a nonprofit, is a business. Even a government is a business. You got revenue coming in, you process it, and then you have a product or a service that comes out, correct? So if I can get everyone to understand what it is that their bottom line, I mean, let's remove emotion, everything out, is to grow the bottom line. So what they're doing is it driving the results. If I can actually show you how to grow it by fivefold, do I have your attention?
you bet.
You bet. So this is how you get a type A, to dive into it. Principles are critical because that's how you scale. But you also have to understand a shared goal. I've had a director of a division come to me and say, "My boss, the VP, isn't paying attention to me. I've tried doing this, this, and this." And I said, I said, "What's the advantage to your concept?" And he says, "Well, it will save him millions of dollars." I said, "Great." I said, "So how did you present it?" And so he explained all of the methods and everything and got to the savings maybe 15, 20 minutes into it. But by that time, the VP wasn't listening. So I actually picked up the phone and we actually called him. And I said, would you like to save $2 million next year? And he goes, yes. And then we started and all the resistance was gone. So part of it is understanding that platinum rule. How do you adapt the conversation to what is important to that individual and then trying to find that path forward, understanding the context, where they are, where they're going, and then you're just helping them get there. And the beauty of working with, let's assume I was an idiot at the beginning of my consulting career. After working with this many executives, CEOs, board members, government agencies, school districts, you name it, I have been highly educated by over 4,000 different individuals over the course of my year of things that I should do and things you should never do. So, success is a terrible teacher, failure is a phenomenal teacher. And I've seen a lot of people's failures. And so I have had the opportunity to sit back and focus on their problems, which is kind of hopefully has given me some wisdom that now the idea is how do I get you to own it so that when I'm displaced or I'm gone, that you are still carrying that torch that, moving forward, trying to be that leader that the organization needs.
So when you have seen problems, how do you know when it's time to pivot?
So let's give you mean a problem or a change in the market? I mean, because
All the above.
okay, well, so you got to define the problem because what a problem is to the organization versus to your department versus to the individual. So when you pivot, will have to be, is it helping? So there's a book that I like. It's very simple book. It's called Monday Morning Leadership. And one of the chapters focuses on everyone needs to know the main thing. And so, what's your boss's main thing, which is typically rallied around the mission, the objective, the purpose? What is your main thing? And then what is your role that supports the boss? Because our job is to make them look good, but it's also to achieve the responsibilities that I have. And then, what's the main thing of each of my individuals that will report or work with me? And if everybody is aligned, if that central concept that cascades throughout the organization, you can really do wonders. If that is all working, then typically if you've got a pivot, it's going to be at the company level because everyone else isn't aligned to it. But most of the time, the issues or the barriers of people like, he doesn't like me because you quit your boss before you quit the company. And so that's when you start pivoting down lower. Does that make sense? So there's so many trends, so many trades, so many individuals that get on fads and things of that nature that it's hard for them. They want to grab the next golden ring on the carousel. And sometimes you have to let them know what's the longevity of their vision, where they're going, kind of wake them up to reality. Not that I have a crystal ball, but after you've been consulting as long as I have, most business books are kind of regurgitated data and information from previous individuals from eons ago. So you just kind of need to help people get some wisdom, should we say.
So your company has been around for 27 years. 27 years, right?
Founded it in 98, but I've been consulting since 91.
Okay, so over 30 years. And you've seen a lot of different markets. You went through a dot-com bust, telecom
Yep.
bust, Great Recession, COVID. How have you been able to maintain your resiliency in your business?
I mean, different entities, when companies go through contraction, you have to understand what do they need most. So like I think Jack Welch said something that a lot of people have forgotten is that in times of a recession or when you're shrinking, a lot of times they will cut training and development first because they see that as fluff. And he's saying, no, if you're going to cut labor, you got to teach people how to do more with less. And it is the time that you should retool. When there's movement up or down as a consultant, there's new opportunities that are created. It's when things get complacent, it's actually where it's sometimes hard for me. But the nice thing is that there are so many different industries coming and going that there's always been opportunity. So in like 2009, I had a 1 week close to half my clients put things on hold. Now, that kind of freaked me out. So I luckily had other clients, and so I called them up. And the place in which I actually had visited, or I started to visit quite regularly, there was one county in the United States, Riley County, Kansas, um, that was growing faster than any other county in the United States. And so I ended up picking up two of the larger companies in that community who then started referring us out to 10 to 14 others. And so always looking for kind of that opportunity, leveraging your network and finding out what people need to help them kind of adapt and adjust is kind of
It's really
how I've pivoted.
It's really interesting to me too that you don't have a specific industry that you focus on. Like it seems like you have a very wide range of different industries. How did you manage as a consultant to do that?
Well, so early in my career in 91, I started working for the Small Business Development Centers, which is a subset of the Small Business Administration. And let's say in Colorado, it's also part of the Governor's Office of Business Development, and you're typically hosted at a college or university. So when you're working as a small or with all these different business owners, and our objective was to foster free enterprise to try to help scale and grow companies. So with that, I didn't have the opportunity to target it's those that came to me. So be it you wanted to start a carpet cleaning business, a construction company, manufacturing, you had something you wanted to sell through the WIN program through Walmart, you wanted to get something on whatever, you had to learn to adapt. And what I found, again, going back to originally, that the common issue, no matter what any industry you came from, was still the people problem. And during the people problem and realizing it's people's mindset, their beliefs, their limiting beliefs is really where the secret to success. And if I can get people to think beyond the box that they put themselves in, I can help them grow that box bigger and bigger, or maybe they don't even live in a box. But if I can help them kind of shred through, break down their walls, their barriers, that's what I found is my stick. Is how do I help you take where you sit versus where you want to go and help you kind of see the reality of what is potential. And yeah, I have school districts that I work with. I have government agencies, and some of those government agencies, they don't have like cardboard walls. They have lead walls reinforced by concrete, that's maybe 5 miles deep. And some of those things are really hard to make any sort of difference. And then you have some individuals that are very agile that, you know, you could just blow their walls down and all of a sudden they're a new person.
That must have been a perfect training vehicle for you. Like you have to adapt to all these different types of industries. But I love that you keep coming back to the people because you must have seen the same type of patterns in so many different industries. And that's why
Re-
your flaws.
Regardless, yeah, regardless of the technology or the industry, people are still present. People are still required. People still want to be valued. Communication still matters. They talk about how generations are different. Yeah, for the most part, there are nuances, but everyone still wants to be appreciated and valued. That has never gone away. And if you're trying to grow and scale a company and you're going to treat individuals as mindless robots, I don't think you'll be around very long.
Speaking of mindless robots, what do you feel about AI and how it's affecting businesses and consultants?
I mean, the internet was a fad initially. Bill Gates even said it early on. And then within a month, he did a flip, and every resource within Microsoft started to become focused on the internet. I was even a part of his video series called America at Work, where we were advising businesses on how to grow and scale.
Sure.
AI will probably be a much bigger and a faster adopted trend than the internet. And most people don't know how much they're already using it because it's embedded in phones. Everything that we're doing, AI is creeping into it. Now, I don't think AI is as much of a job killer as it is a skill enhancer. And if individuals are scared of automation, you still have people, you still have empathy that you've got to have. We still have to understand the context in which things are going to be able to scale and to grow. So I don't run from it. It is here. And I think it's going to be substantially bigger than the internet ever was. And it's changing so fast. When I was teaching at a college marketing, one of the things we talked about that the average person would see 1,000 advertisements in a week. So how are you going to get your message through to your target audience? And you had to fight through that noise. Well, now with the internet and with it getting smarter all the time, you can see 10,000 ads in a week. And you no longer have your common mediums that you did once upon a time. So AI, if you learn how to leverage, I mean, if you can think strategically and critically, you can really leverage AI to do the mundane and really grow much faster. So I think it's a tool. It's still really rough. I mean, we still have square wheels on the dang thing, but eventually they'll be round and it will work smoothly.
What AI tools are you using currently?
Well, I mean, I have Claude, I use Gemini, I use Chat GPT. Those three I use a lot, almost daily. I use them for different purposes because they have different strengths. Elon's, I like it, but it's just not as many of the tools, even though it's really good at deep thinking. And so, they're all helpful, but you can also rely too much on them. And with the hallucinations that are out there, you don't understand the industry or what you're asking. You don't know if it's lying to you. And so you've got to understand, and this is the reason why I don't think it's really much of a job killer. People will become conductors, but you really still need to double and triple verify what it's saying because you can't blindly go where AI tells you.
Yeah, I mean we've seen that in our business. Like the hallucinations can be surprising and very convincing. And if you use those hallucinations as fact, it could lead you down a very wrong path very quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we've all heard about the attorneys that referenced in court previous court cases that didn't exist
Can you
because
imagine?
AI developed it.
One of the other podcasts we talked to was a really interesting woman, and she talked a lot about using AI and the governance requirements for using AI, especially for licensees. So anyone who's licensed with the state or federally, like you have to be very, very careful.
Well, and this goes back to like with OpenAI's tool, you have to be at a business or enterprise level of a subscription before they won't share your data. If Copilot with Microsoft has been very good at promising at not sharing the data. So a lot of companies are scared of their intellectual property being stolen for people using AI just for simple little tasks. And this is where you have to understand security and your information out there is if you're using AI, it's like giving it to the world.
Very scary, but exciting too. I do think that there are more opportunities to use this as a good tool if you know how to use it and you know how to implement it.
Yeah, you just need to embrace it. We don't want singularity, shall we say? I don't want Dave not to open the pod bay doors, when he wants to. I want to be able to be in control of my life, and I want AI to be a tool. And that's the reason why I said it's a skill enhancer. Let it do the mundane, let it do things critical thinking, understanding context, empathy, dealing with the people. I mean, those are the things that you'll always need to be able to do. And AI will never be human. Then I've had people try to attack philosophically, well, what is an entity and could AI be its own and will it ever be protected? It's like it's a machine and it's still silicone.
Yeah, we're getting into the future here.
Yes.
Well, Russell, it's been really a pleasure speaking with you. If somebody wants to work with you and your company, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Through my website, aspenbusiness.com. At the very bottom, there's a little area where they can message me and reach out. I'm also on LinkedIn. I do have close to 20,000 followers there. So, and I get probably about 40 or 50 messages a day.
Wow.
So I may not see you directly because I typically just delete. So the best thing's really to go to my website and message me.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much for joining our podcast. I really appreciate you, your time, and best of luck to you in the future.
All right. Well, thank you for having me as well. It's been fun.